Imagining you being raped all over the place by an adoptive father, a stepfather, or an evil stepfather. Just like what happened to Chloe Howley. She put her adoptive father away because he's been abusing her. And when he abused her, she was only 13 and she got pregnant. And this is why you need to be extremely careful who you adopt. Because you don't know what a predator will strike next. And that's how Chloe Howley broke her silence. Let's take Maddy Moore for example. Maddy Moore decides to break her silence. And let me tell you something, this is important. Her father had a secret of his own as well.
I'm gonna record.
I haven't done anything to her. Get down on your knees right now.
He grabbed my butt and he would hug me and...
If he comes to the house illegally, I'm gonna kill him.
You know what I'm talking about? You don't touch a 14-year-old girl, you piece of
And that's when I started kicking him in the face.
and kill you with my bare hands.
And then he started to touch my chest.
Stay down! I'm down. Stay! I'm down. Don't hit me anymore.
And that piece of garbage came around the back door.
You're telling her she should kiss you? Are you? I did not say that. Deny it all you want. The cops are on their way right now.
And the words she said was, Sean's been touching Madeline. This is the kid I was gonna use to kill him.
Don't move until the cops get here and save you from me.
Imagining a 400-pound monster coming into the home about to molest a 14-year-old girl.
What the are you doing?
Imagining you doing something like that and then the father finds out you're trying to do that.
What the are you doing?
This man pummels the pedophile and records the confrontation. And when he pummels the pedophile, he decided to go commando.
Brandon Moore exacts Texas-style revenge after he learns his best friend had been molesting his daughter Madeline for 5 years. He gave Crime Watch Daily permission to use her photographs.
My plan was to murder him. Just straight up. Would have had no qualms.
You really were gonna kill him?
Oh, absolutely.
How did this disgusting deviant weasel his way into Brandon's family, grooming his young daughter to do the worst things imaginable?
I am not a child.
The nightmare begins when Maddy's family moves from Minnesota to Waco, Texas. The first person Brandon and his wife Leone meet, their new neighbor, a single man named Sean Foster.
We came down one weekend. Leone and I drove down to buy a house, and that was the weekend that we met Sean Foster.
Your very first weekend in Texas.
Yes. He was parking in his driveway, and we were talking about that we couldn't afford the after-school program for all 3 kids, and he said, what do you need me to do? And we said, well, we need somebody to pick up the kids after school.
It's a hot Texas summer day, and he helps us clean the whole backyard. And I'm like, wow, here's a really nice neighbor. You know, who wants to be out here working in the heat, let alone on somebody else's house?
The so-called nice neighbor quickly becomes a member of the family.
How big a part of the family did Sean Foster become?
A regular part of the family. We ended up switching house keys. He went on vacation with us, and he had spent several holidays with us.
Everyone in the family called him Uncle Sean. Everyone but Maddy.
I just remember thinking, like, there's something wrong with this guy. Like, he's not okay.
You instantly picked up on that.
Yeah, every time he came around, I felt sick before he even started doing things.
Maddy, now 16 years old, wants the world to hear her horror story. Her father gave Crime Watch Daily permission to interview her. She says she was only 9 years old when Foster began his sick seduction.
He would take pictures of me.
Naked?
No, he'd be like, oh, turn around, and he would take pictures of my butt.
Maddy says those seemingly innocent pictures turned into some not-so-innocent touching.
Growing up, now 16-year-old Madeline Moore seemed like a fun-loving free spirit who loved to play dress-up.
Maybe the world is blind.
Punky Brewster was a favorite escape, but on the inside, there was something else, something hideous she was hiding.
How many times do you think there was an incident?
Hundreds. It was just every day, all day, constant.
She was a scared little girl.
When you look at the pictures now, you see the pain in Madeline's eyes.
With a terrible secret.
It's not who you expect it to be.
This man, Sean Foster, a neighbor they treated like family.
He was Uncle Sean to our kids. He came to Christmas, Thanksgiving, he went on vacation with us.
Wasn't at all who they thought. By age 9, that seemingly loving adopted uncle,
Really manipulative.
was preying on Madeline.
Around age 12 or 13, he started kissing me and opening shower curtains and buying me rings and like fancy dresses and giving me $20 bills every time he dropped me off at home. I guess I didn't know how to approach my parents about it.
Then one terrifying June day, young Madeline knew she had to tell. Her safety and maybe her life depended on it.
Something, she says, that confused her. You were being inappropriately touched, but you weren't sure.
Yeah, like I didn't have the words for it. I was 9 at first and I was like, you know, why is he touching my chest? Like I don't have anything there. As I got older, I was just like, okay, no one talks about what this is, so I must be the only person going through it. And I didn't want to come forward and be like, hey, this is happening, and have people say, oh, it's normal, or have people say like, oh, there's something wrong with you.
Maddy seemed locked in a prison with a pedophile as her jailer.
I remember that he wanted to take Madeline to go get her nails done. And so they went and got other little hairdo things and stuff like that, little barrettes for her to put in her hair.
What kind of a man does
Right.
that?
And I remember thinking that's really weird, and Maddy came home upset. I was like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, she just got upset. She couldn't get her nails done.
Leon and Brandon thought Maddy's depression was because of some of the boys at school, but it was the adult creep across the street.
So when guys at school started calling me mean things and picking on me, it was just like, they know I'm a slut because, you know, Sean's been calling me that since I'm 9, so I obviously am. And so my stomach would hurt so bad from like being nervous and the anxiety. I would have to go down to the office, to the nurse, because I was in actual pain from all the stress. And finally got so bad, my mom was like, maybe we just need to move schools. So we moved schools. The problem wasn't the school, it was Sean.
Maddy says she lived in fear.
Did you feel threatened by him?
Yeah, I knew he had a lot of guns.
So when they move a few miles down the highway to the Waco suburb of Lorena, she thinks that would be the end of her ordeal. But she says it only got worse. Foster still came over, and she says when she was in the shower, Foster surprised her by walking right into the bathroom.
I hear the door open. I'm just like, what do I do? Am I just supposed to pretend like he's not in here? And the door had shut. And I was like, okay, he's gone. And I start like washing my face. And I turn, and he's staring at me. I just stood there.
Maddy continued to suffer in silence. Then Foster makes an offer. He hires her to work for his pool construction company.
Did he buy her work clothes?
He did.
Then when she put on some of the stuff, they were these skimpy little shorts. And I was like, why are we getting those? That's all they have.
Who said that?
Sean.
Skimpy shorts to work.
Yeah.
And he bought them.
Yeah.
The warning signs were starting to flash red. Brandon says he thought it strange that Maddy got paid for doing no real work.
So you think he just made up this whole I'll employ you at my pool company thing to have more time with her?
It was a pretty low-skilled type of position. She said, I don't want to work for Sean anymore, and we said, why? And she goes, I don't know what I'm getting paid. Sometimes we just go to his house and we hang out.
Maddy says one day while riding to a construction job, the conversation turned scary.
He goes, tomorrow you should try drugs with me. And then he goes, yeah, after we do that, we're gonna have sex. And I was just like, oh my God, he's gonna drug me and then rape me. This is gonna be it for me. This is as bad as it can get.
That's when Maddy knew she would no longer be a silent victim.
That's the biggest thing that pushed me to tell, because I was like, that's too far. Oh my God, this is gonna go way farther than I thought it would.
But just as she was about to tell, her father had the mother of all headaches and went to the ER.
The doctor said, we think this might be a brain aneurysm. It could get serious.
Sean offered to watch Maddy. After all, he was her Uncle Sean. It turns out Brandon's headache was just a pulled muscle. But when they came home from the hospital, they had a rude awakening.
Sean Foster slept in Madeline's bed.
And what did you think of that?
It blew my mind. Why are you in my little girl's room? Go sleep on our bed if you want a bed.
Or sleep on the couch.
Absolutely.
The next day, Maddy had to go to the doctor for a physical. Leon was running behind schedule, so Foster offered to take her.
So I was a couple minutes late, and I walk in, and it's like the nurse has already got Maddy back there, and she's trying to get me to come, and Sean's bamboozling me. He's like, yeah, I was trying to go back, but they wouldn't let me. And
So what was he trying to do?
go back into the appointment with Madeline and be in the exam room with her. Which, why? I can tell something's wrong with her. And then I'm like, so what's up? And she goes, well, he texts and drives, Mom. And it happens a lot. And I'm like, is there anything else you need to tell me? And she goes, well, yeah, Mom. He touches me and he tries kissing me a lot.
Leon is livid, but she waits until she gets home so she can tell Brandon in person.
After 5 long and horrific years of sexual abuse,
You feel dirty and ashamed, like you did something wrong.
14-year-old Madeline broke her silence. Years of anguish pouring out in one sentence.
Mom, Sean kisses me and he touches me inappropriately.
Her father, Brandon, a Marine, couldn't wait another second for justice.
And she goes, Sean's been touching Madeline. And he came over and he touched her while you were in the hospital. And if she would have told me over the phone, I would have gone to his house and I would have killed him. I said, I need to go do something. And so she drove me over to our pastor's house. And I was really thankful he was there. But at first he was like, well, I'd want to kill him too.
That would be murder, even in Texas. How could they get ironclad evidence against Foster and stop him for good? Maddy Moore is the victim of a pedophile. Her parents' best friend, Sean Foster.
The second time I was alone with him, he grabbed my butt.
The 400-pound pervert began fondling her when she was only 9, even walking in on her as she took a shower.
That was just terrifying. What is he gonna do to me? My siblings are in the other room. I don't want to scream because I don't want to scare them.
Maddy, what were you afraid of?
I was afraid of him raping me because I was completely naked, and it would have been easier than if I was fully clothed.
And she says that wasn't the first time. When Maddy's mom, Leon, found out, all kinds of dark thoughts raced through her mind.
I'm thinking, give me 10 minutes in a room with that man, strap him down and let me do some things to him that are very painful.
Maddy's dad, Brandon, thought it was simpler just to kill him.
I was just gonna put my shotgun right here and just pull the trigger. I was imagining, man, you're gonna have bits of head everywhere. You're gonna have brains and it's gonna be bloody and we're gonna have to move, but it's worth it.
So what kept you from doing that?
I thought, okay, that'll make a big mess and I don't want my girls to deal with that.
Or deal with the loss of their father. Brandon would surely go to prison for murder, so this former Marine with a PhD instead formulated a brilliant plan.
The plan that I had was to go catch him in his sleep and incapacitate him with this. I couldn't sleep all night long. I was up all night.
The pain was too much. We found out Brandon had a haunting secret of his own. More on that in a moment. But first,
I took Madeline's iPhone. I said, I'm gonna text Sean from your phone.
Because the logical conclusion was, to you,
Oh, I'd kill him.
So, pretending to be Madeline, who occasionally worked for Sean, Brandon laid a trap.
I guess I can work today. I'm going to take a shower.
I'll be out in 15 minutes.
Since Maddy worked part-time for Foster's pool construction business, she texts him regularly. Brandon texts using the language of a 14-year-old girl. Brandon says Foster knew they always kept the back door unlocked.
I'm gonna lock the front door, turn on the shower, and the light in the bathroom and bedroom, and shut both doors. And as soon as Sean comes in the back door, you call the police, and I'll keep him here.
Leon watches from a couple of doors down. Brandon hides his weapons so he won't be tempted.
I went and put the shotgun and the knife in the garage, and I thought, I'm just gonna deal with him with my hands.
You put the weapons in the garage to keep you from reaching for them?
I was perfectly willing to murder him and then take the risk until Leon said, you're the main provider, the kids need their dad.
With Mom on the lookout and the father hiding behind the house, the trap was set.
The tension is thick as the humid Texas air. Will Foster actually take the bait? Yes, he does.
As soon as I see him walk through our back gate and open the back door, I dial 911. I say, there's a man in my house that does not belong in my house. Last night, we turned him in as a child molester, and he's in my home. I said, I just watched him walk in the back door. And I said, and to be honest with you, my husband's in there, and he's going to get beaten up. And she goes, have you trapped him? I said, I guess you could call it that.
I waited in my son's room. I heard a door slam. He knocked once on the bathroom door and said, Maddy, I thought you showered last night. And he whipped the curtain back. And when he whipped it back, all he saw was this empty shower with the shower on.
Brandon pounced as the cell phone in his pocket recorded every detail.
Watch closely. You can hear Sean Foster whip open the shower curtain so hard, the rings fly off the rod, and Brandon pounced onto Sean Foster.
Hey, what the are you doing? What are you doing? I haven't done anything to her. You don't touch a 14-year-old girl.
Brandon doesn't wait for the cops. Filled with rage, he pummels the pedophile.
I don't you. Stay down. I'm down. Stay. I'm down. Don't hit me anymore.
I jumped up on his back and I choked him until he went down in this corner. And that's when I had lost all composure.
Don't move until the cops get here and save you from me. Oh my God, you broke my glasses. You're trespassing in my house. Get down. I'm not gonna get down. I'm not gonna touch you. You're not moving. I have to move. I have to go. No, you're staying here until the cops get here. You're through.
I kicked him a couple of times and then he rolled on his side and I started kicking him in the hernia in the stomach. I almost lost it completely and I choked him until he slammed into the front door and into the wall. And as soon as he was down, I just started kneeing him in the face. And then I see two police officers standing outside the front door. I was like, okay, I can't kill him in front of the police.
Foster is in cuffs.
Are you relieved about how this case turned out?
I am, because a volatile situation like this could have gone so many different directions. Let the investigation take its course.
Sean Foster was charged with burglary, charged with intent to commit decency with a child, and an indecency with a child by contact. Bail was set high. $500,000.
Daily, we would check the McLennan County Jail roster, and it was so nice to see his name on there. And the day that we woke up and checked it and it wasn't on there, it was like, oh, we have to go tell Maddy he's not locked up. And he's out.
Foster makes bail and rejects a plea deal that would have given him 20 years in prison. He decides to take his chance with a jury. Thoughts of murder and revenge filled Brandon's mind once again.
It's taking too long. I'm going to go kill him.
Finally, Foster gets his day in court, taking the stand in his defense, denying the allegations. Prosecutors Hillary Laborde and Evan O'Donnell tore into him.
How important was that audio tape?
I think the audio tape was very important because it took the jury to the offense. It's very rare that you have an eyewitness to child sexual abuse. She wasn't being abused that day. It was certainly an attempt by Sean Foster to see her in the shower.
But the most powerful moment, Maddy bravely testifies against the man who she says abused her for nearly a third of her life.
Were you scared when you took the stand?
I was more annoyed than anything, to be honest. I got up there and I was really nervous. It was really hard seeing him, but I told myself, you're not gonna cry. Sean liked to make me cry. He thought it was funny. He wouldn't look at me. And I said, you won't look at me now because you know you're guilty. And I was like, we both know you did this.
What did Foster say was his defense?
It really wasn't much of one. You know her almost as well as her parents do. So tell us why she would make this up about you. And he just had no explanation.
Almost 2 years after Madeline blew the whistle on Sean, justice was finally served.
There were 6 counts. Guilty, 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 and guilty. It was 6 favorite words I've ever heard.
And guess what, guys? Here's the most important thing. Sean Foster was sentenced to 55 years in prison.
I don't think he'll survive 5. I really hope the other prisoners find out what he's there for, and they do the things that prisoners do to child molesters.
But for the Moores, the road to healing has grown even longer. We told you Madeline's father had his own haunting secret.
You had been down this road yourself. I mean, unbeknownst to anybody else.
Yeah, I had been abused by another person when I was younger, and from about the age of 6 off and on till the age of 12. And I had never told anybody.
Inspired by his daughter's strength, Brandon finally shared that dark secret with his family, just like his daughter, words he never thought he'd speak.
When I think about that, what happened to me, and then what happened to Madeline, I can understand.
As Madeline and her dad make peace with the past together, she is sharing her years of suffering so other victims don't suffer in silence.
Maddy, do you feel you've gotten justice?
I do. Honestly, though, I do wish that they gave like the death sentence for stuff like this or life, but they don't. And so he got a lot longer than I was expecting. I don't know how I held it in for that long. And I think it's because I just convinced myself that nothing's wrong. I was always waiting for a sign. If you're watching this, this is your sign. You owe it to yourself to tell someone.
Brandon didn't face any charges for beating the pedophile to a pulp. Sweet justice for a sweet girl, forever grateful her ex-Marine dad rescued her from the clutches of a creep.
Now I know he's in prison and my dad beat you up, so it works out.
If you are at home watching this and you are going through this and you're scared, you know, turn to somebody. And if you don't have anybody to turn to me because I will listen. If you have to find me on Facebook, 10 years ago I was just this kid that would cry my problems away. But
now you're a woman who fights.
Yeah.
Right now I want to bring attorney Jenny Hutt to talk about this fine line. As parents, we get it. I've caught my fair share of predators. But what are the legal ramifications of taking the law into your own hands here?
Right, so Chris, legally, you cannot harm another person unless you're in imminent danger of bodily harm or a person right by you is in imminent danger of bodily harm. So in this case, had this father impulsively hurt the perpetrator, he could have been held criminally liable. and that would have made things a lot tougher for him ultimately.
So he could have been prosecuted,
Yes.
and potentially the molester could have gone scot-free.
Well, I'm not sure that the alleged molester could have gone scot-free with this level of evidence that was accumulated, but it certainly would have gotten Brandon in trouble. Then he could have been brought up on charges by the state.
And just to be clear, we're not advocating anybody become a vigilante here. Jenny Hutt, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it.